you on this. There is an accusation that the Kenya Kwanza senators voted against 417 billion shillings to be 407 billion shillings to be taken to counties and ended up with 385 billion. First, how do you explain this to the people of Kakamega that you, as their senator, who is supposed to defend counties, cut the money that was supposed to be sent to them, or voted against them getting more allocation of money?
I am very lucky that I have been given an opportunity to speak to a matter of grave national importance, like sharing of revenue. It is myopic and simplistic to make the public believe that what was taking place in Parliament was voting to deny counties money. Far from it. There has never been that kind of motion, that kind of bill, that kind of agenda in the Senate. What was in the Senate, and thanks to political posturing, people don't realize that what was in the Senate was lawmaking. And the law we were speaking to is sharing of revenue between national and county government. It's called the Division of Revenue Bill. When you are sharing this revenue, you are supposed to balance between the national needs and the county needs, so that both levels of government are functional. Before I delve any further, let me remind members of the public why I'm so happy the way I voted and the way I whipped colleagues in line with my responsibility for us to see the motion through. It is because when you are voted into office, you're given power and authority. What you are not given is responsibility. It's up to you to exercise that power and authority responsibly. So to go to the Senate and start howling the way I saw Azimio colleagues howling, that let money go to the counties, it is exercising power and authority without responsibility. Responsibility demanded that we balance the national interest against the county interest so that we can move on and drag on until the next financial year. Why am I using those English words? It is because we inherited from our handshake brothers who preceded us a huge public debt crisis. So, if you completely refuse to see that debt crisis that the country is in and not allow the national government to be in a position to address the national crisis, we will just march on, and by the next financial year, we are finished. Let me give the example of a dairy farmer. A dairy farmer knows that for him to milk this cow in the evening, having milked in the morning, he has to balance the milk he gets in the morning, consume enough, but sell enough to make sure that what makes the cow productive is also accounted for. In this case, we are talking about dairy meal, we are talking about the actual treatment, we are talking about acaricides, we are talking about paying the worker. If you just say, let me drink all the milk, and you don't address these things, then be prepared that the following day, the following week, the following month, you will not be having a cow to milk.
But you
I want to appeal to governance
of counties.
I want to appeal.
Whose interest are you acting on now?
In the greater national interest. Once you address national interest, you have addressed national interest, county interest, individual interest. Anything else is self-defeating. And I am not a visitor in Parliament like, not a visitor, I'm not a newcomer in Parliament like my two colleagues here. I have gone through many division of revenue bills, and I know what eventually comes out of it. If we had chosen the route that the senator was saying, we would be delaying the budget process now because we would have differed with the National Assembly. We would have gone to a mediation committee, and in the mediation committee, we would have said these things we are saying, and still we would come with the figure that we have said.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Sifuna Khalwale is saying that you would have exercised power without responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you try to balance that? Okay, fine, this is the situation where we are in as a country. This is what we can afford, so let's go with it.
First of all, let me say without fear that Khalwale is lying as to the nature of the debate in the House. There was a division of revenue bill that was passed by the National Assembly. He says he's been in Parliament longer than me. He missed the orientation at the new Senate because I think he says he has experience. During orientation, because I was a first-timer, I attended dutifully. They told us that you can distinguish between a Senate bill and a National Assembly bill just by the color. The color of the bills from the National Assembly is green. The color of the Senate bills is blue. There was a green bill, Khalwale, that was put before the Senate. It was a division of revenue bill passed by the National Assembly. It was 385 billion shillings for counties and the rest of the money for the National Assembly, for the counties. When the money, the bill came to the House, it was committed to a committee. It's called the Finance and Budget Committee, chaired by Senator Ali Roba of Mandera. That committee report was very objective, saying, because if you look at what the Constitution says, the singular role of the Senate under Article 96 is to represent counties, not national good, not your political party, to represent counties and serve to protect the interests of the counties and their governments. That is why you are elected as a senator. There is no other job. Don't listen to these stories Khalwale is telling you. Now, even in the question of distribution of resources here, if you look at Article 203, you talk about national good. The following criteria to be taken into account in determining the equitable share. Under 203(1)(b), C, it says the needs of the national government determined by an objective criteria. And the next one, to ensure that county governments are able to perform the functions allocated to them. This figure of 407, by the way, Trevor, was proposed by the Commission on Revenue Allocation, a constitutional commission under Article 215, whose single role is to guide the Senate on what is the objective criteria for the allocation of resources. Now, when this bill comes, when the amendment comes, because the Committee on Finance and Budget proposed the amendment that instead of the 385 that was passed by the National Assembly, we as a Senate should go with the figure that was proposed by the CRA, which was 407 billion. It is a committee report, a report of a committee of the Senate, chaired by the Senator of Mandera, that brought the question of, let's move this 385 passed by the National Assembly to 407. We rejected a recommendation of our own committee. The 22 senators voted against that amendment, including, by the way, members of the committee led by the chair himself, Ali Roba of Mandera. They voted against the 407. So, Trevor, it is a very sad day for devolution, that you can actually be elected to protect the interests of the counties. Then you come and tell us the stories about national interest. And I'll discuss this national interest. In this budget, 360 billion shillings is being added on the amount that the national government was receiving last year. In that division of revenue, 360 billion more to the national government, as opposed to 15 billion more to the county governments, as was passed by the National Assembly. In this particular financial year, the Senate has not added the counties a single shilling. This 15 billion was added by the National Assembly in the green bill that I have told you. So where is the equity? Why does the national government desire or require 360 billion more from last year? Where is this money going? It's going to buy vehicles from Musalia Mudavadi, Rigathi Gachagua, and William Ruto. The 800 million shillings that we were told. It is going to pay these political rejects who are appointed as cabinet chief administrative secretaries. It is going to for T and Mandazi to State House. Where is the equity? We had the CS for Treasury before the PIC, the Senate PIC, Public Investments Committee, in Bunge just the other day. And he told us, because we asked him, we keep discussing these pending releases, exchequer releases to counties. We never discuss how much money does the National Treasury owe the national government, so that we see even Treasury is being fair in how it releases money to the two levels of government. We have argued that, in fact, this National Treasury is behaving like a national government treasury. And the evidence is there that, Trevor, 2 months to the close of the financial year, the counties are owed 90 billion shillings. Out of the 370 that was allocated, it's almost 25%. Meanwhile, the Treasury CS himself confirmed that only 211 billion out of the 2 billion shillings that went to the national government in the last financial year is owing 2 months to the election, less than 10%. You can see that there is a problem. We were very perplexed that our colleagues would not even put up a fight for the sake of their people. So when Khalwale stands next time to say, oh, we need money for completion of the hospital they are building in Kakamega, the people of Kakamega should always remind him that there was an opportunity for you to put up a fight. Khalwale, even if you added just 10 shillings to the amount that was passed by the national government, by the National Assembly, you would have done your job as a senator. Even if it was just 10 bob, so that the people of Malinya can know that the bullfighter fought. But when a bullfighter refuses to fight, it's a problem. Okay. Omwami, put up a fight for your people. Let's go to mediation. Every single year, I have watched the Senate go to mediation with the National Assembly. And there has been an extra coin extracted from the proposals from the National Assembly. All we wanted for you to do, all the people of Kenya expect you to do, is to do what? To put up a fight. Okay. Lastly, Trevor, yesterday, there was a debate on the Equalization Fund. Yeah. Do you know? The Equalization Fund, according to the Constitution, is supposed to help counties that are so-called marginalized to bring up basic services like water, roads, and hospitals to the level enjoyed by other people. Out of the 34 counties that are receiving that Equalization Fund because they are poor, marginalized, 23 of them voted against extra allocation of the 407 billion. Their senators refused money. Then you come and cry for the Equalization Fund. Yeah. We in Nairobi, we say, pesa ni pesa. Yeah. There is no difference between money is money. Okay. You cannot leave money on the table. Yeah. Then you start crying about Equalization Fund to build hospitals, because, as I gave the example yesterday, a contractor building a dispensary will not ask you, is this money from the shareable revenue or from the Equalization Fund? Yeah. Money is money. If you have left money on the table as a senator of Turkana, you cannot come and cry about the Equalization Fund. All right. Veronica, did the senators simply fail the counties?
They have not failed the counties, but what I must commend my colleague, Senator Sifuna, for is his ability to veer off the debate and bring in issues that then marks the full understanding of the issues under discussion. For instance, bringing in the issue of purchase of motor vehicles as being the reason why now we have a division of revenue bill that has 385 as opposed to his preferred 407 billion. What I would say is this: the current division of revenue bill has met the constitutional threshold, Trevor, and it has allocated the minimum threshold under the Constitution. If you read Article 203, is that it should not be below 15% of the total revenue that is collected by the national government. Now, the current division of revenue bill has taken this beyond to 24.5%. That is to 385 billion. And Trevor, if we look at the basis, if you look at the conditions, what needs to be considered when this division of revenue is being done, one of the considerations is the last audited accounts which are approved by the National Assembly. And if you see how this division was done, it was based on the last audited accounts. I think it was maybe 2019, 2020, that's the one that is approved by the National Assembly. So they have actually used accurate accounting information to be able to arrive at that. Trevor, what people need to understand is that one of the other things that needs to be considered when that division is being done is what is the debt situation in the country, Trevor. You have to allocate money to debt. There are certain things that must be dealt with. And if you notice Section 5E of that division of revenue bill, it clearly narrates what the national government has stipulated, that national government continues to solely bear shortfalls in revenue in any given financial year, while the county governments have always received their full allocation despite the budget cuts that affect the national government entities. Therefore, Trevor, if you look at what the national government has been doing over the last few years, there have been budget cuts and shortfalls, which it has been bearing all along. So when you see the calculation being done, it's not a calculation which the national government woke up and decided that we want to disentitle the county. So it's good to understand the context within which this division of revenue bill has been done. For me, the 385 billion that was given is 15 billion more than what was given in the last financial year. And it is a practical, realistic, sustainable bill that presents a good allocation to the counties. Because, Trevor, if today I was to ask you, I give you 500,000 today or 500 million today, or I give you 1 billion after 3-4 years, what would be the preferred mode of dealing? Be realistic. Give what is capable of being afforded. Yeah. Because, and this is a conversation that the national government has tried to do, but has been always taken off sidetrack because of allegations that vehicles are being bought or this and that is being done. There are certain recurrent expenditures that have to be done for work to be outputted. But when your
role is to work for the county.
So the idea
you're
is
supposed to pull the weight towards the county, not whether other people have allocations or not.
The balance of this revenue between national and county government. There are certain obligations that must be met. Debt is one of them. In fact, Trevor, if you read that the sections in that division of revenue bill together with the constitution, you find if the government manages to get excess revenue, that excess revenue, the priority is to allocate it to debt. Trevor. So I don't think this is a reasonable way and a practical way that the accounts have been done and allocation has been attributed to both the county and the national.
So in and then one more point. Billion is enough.
For me,
it's enough for counties.
Let me tell you,
should be okay with that.
If 500 billion was available tomorrow, it should be better than even 407.
Yeah, because you see on the Constitution Article 2 or 3, equitable share and other financial news, they say that
and I will also say this.
203(2) says it should be not less than 15%. So it could go as high as 70%.
You see what the Constitution has also done? It has ring-fenced other ways of getting funding, including the equalization fund, which is now going to be coming in to buffer whatever budgets have been sent to counties based on the vulnerability of any county that may have been marginalized, Trevor. So we have to start being practical as Kenyans and live within our means, Trevor.
Okay.
That conversation has been had, and even you as an individual, you have to be practical and live within your means.
Okay.
Don't show your wife you can keep taking her for holidays 6 times in a year. When you actually can't afford it, do it once. She will be happy. But if someone comes and creates an illusion for Kenyans that we can actually all fly to Greece and have a holiday once in a year, every family, we will be lying to Kenyans. I think it is good for us to be practical. Finally, our concentration, and which we need to also help ourselves to steer away from, we over-concentrate on what we are spending. Why do we don't concentrate on what we can earn, how we can improve? Why can't counties be incentivized to have more income streams that bring in more funding? Because if they are incentivized and they collect so much, that should be reflective with the development that happens within that county. So let counties curb the wastage, use this money properly without being corrupt on this money, and let's see where Kenya gets to. We will be very good with even the 385.
All right, Halwale, is it fair for the national government to increase its allocation, but yet senators now argue that you cannot give too much money to the counties because the money is not there? Is it a fair argument?
You know, listening to Senator Sifuna, I now understand why it was a basic requirement that students must score a particular grade in a particular subject to go into a particular profession. The figures he's throwing around, you can use them to justify his concern But until you realize that it is percentages that count, then when you say 350 versus 15 billion, it doesn't become clear to the mind. What do I mean? The national government, when there is an increase in revenue collection, the way it has been, it is going to end up to get more because under the Constitution, the national government gets the lion's share, percentage-wise. And on the other hand, the county government will get less. Senator Sifuna, intelligence is inborn. For you to be a lawyer, you must be intelligent. You are a very intelligent man. But you are supposed to learn something else if you're intelligent. You have to learn to be reasonable. You have to learn to be reasonable. You are being unreasonable by thinking that the only problem in this country is county needs. You are being unreasonable by assuming that the moment you have taken money to the county, you are all under Article 96 of defending and protecting the interests of the counties ends there. In fact, taking the money is the beginning of that role. You are supposed to go further and interrogate how is the money used. At the moment, you know for a fact, and I'm not blaming the governors who went into office 6 months ago, but over the last 10 years, devolution has worked, but has not worked very well because the Senate has not been assertive in terms of oversight. It's only yesterday that I was happy that an Azimio-led committee was now pinning down governors to explain why 65.7 billion shillings that they got for the money that we gave them, they refused to remit that money for statutory institutions, including LAP Trust, LAP Fund, the County Pension Fund. That is the oversight. So when you excite yourself, you exchange little love calls and letters with the governors that we have disagreed with Khalwale and Maina on a figure, and then you don't pin them down on the wastage of billions of shillings. That is the real failure of government. Finally, but not least, my brother, the simple principle in English of digging a hole. You think we are unreasonable? We who are running government? We are reasonable. We know that your business as the opposition is not to help us to succeed. So, we got you digging a hole and had to go into that hole because we had taken over government. And you are encouraging us to continue digging the hole so that 5 years later, you find us in an even deeper hole for you to justify why you should take over government. We have gone into the hole, we have stopped digging, and we are now navigating our way out.
Okay.
Do you know, Senator Sifuna here, if you refuse to be reasonable and just use your intelligence, you'll do what Idi Amin did. You'll do what Moi did in 1992. First, economic challenges, they said, print more money. And there was money in circulation. So this is the bit about being reasonable I'm talking about. You'll end up telling us, print more money. Listen, my brother, for the first time in the history of this country, salaries have delayed. Not because William Ruto, the president, has eaten the money for salaries, but because the Consolidated Fund, and you are a lawyer, you know the provisions of Public Finance Act, that public debt enjoys the first charge on the Consolidated Fund. Okay. So if we had promised people 407 billion, and then public debt comes and enjoys that first charge, where would you have gotten the 407?
Okay.
You know what you would have said? You would have said print more money.
Okay, Sifuna.
You know, and Trevor, allow me time equivalent to the two of them to explain this thing in the way.
In fact, I donate you more.
I am not being unreasonable. I am being true to the oath that I took as an elected senator on the first day of the Senate. There is only 67 of us, 47 elected in the counties and 20 nominated, who have been given the job under Article 96 to defend counties and their governments. There is a reason why there are 380 plus colleagues of ours in the lower house, in the National Assembly, to argue these things on behalf of the national government. As a senator, you should be arguing for your county. That is what you were elected to do, Khalwale. The first thing if you get yourself anywhere, because some of us were deliberate in the offices we were running for. We did not end up in the Senate by mistake. We were deliberate. We knew we could either be in the National Assembly or in the Senate. Ask yourself, why are you there? What is the role of this house? What is my role as a senator? Your role is spelled out under Article 96 to only be about defending counties and the county governments and their interests. If you want to speak about debt as a senator, talk about county debt. We have 163 billion shillings that is owed to suppliers in the counties. 100 billion of that amount, Trevor, is owed by one county, Nairobi County, which I represent. It is therefore, when I speak about debt, and in fact on the floor of the House, I try to invite my colleague senators to also accept that we cannot elevate this national debt over county debt just because it says so. County debt is also important. The money that is owed to the Chinese is just as important as the money that is owed to regular suppliers in Kakamega, in Bungoma, in Nairobi. So, my brother, what these two colleagues of mine are supposed to do for you and the public that is watching today is to provide a justification why the national government needs 360 billion more, which is, by the way, only 25 billion shillings less the entire amount that was given to the county governments. Justify for me, why does the national government need 360 billion shillings more? And that is, if you fail to explain it, I will explain it, because I know where that money is going. 800 million shillings to buy vehicles for those three individuals that I have named here. Tea and mandazi for prayer warriors at State House. That's what the man is going to do.
How much?
I think they spend $1 billion each month.
$1 billion.
Fascinated.
No, those are numbers that we can't verify.
No, let's continue. Let me allocate this man.
Yes.
Because your job, Khalwale,
go on.
As you are running government.
Go on, yes.
Justify for Kenyans these 360 billion additional resources that have gone to the national government. Tell us, because if you read the bill, Trevor, you will see that this money that is being retained is actually being retained for county functions. We as senators are not supposed to be speaking the language of the national government. I have told you another fact, Trevor, that came from the National Treasury CS himself, that 2 months before the end of the financial year, the money that National Treasury owes to counties is 25%, 90 billion shillings. Out of the 370 that was allocated last year, 90 billion is still not been disbursed. He promised us that by the end of this week, he would have released all the money for February. And then by the end of the financial year, all the 370 will have been disbursed. My job as a senator, yes, is to oversight resources. But Khalwale, if you are saying my job, just sending money to the counties is the beginning of my job.
Yes.
If I don't send money, then there's no job. You have no job, because you didn't add a single shilling to the counties this time. In fact, the 22 of you cost us 22 billion. As you're sitting there, you cost our counties, you as an individual, Khalwale, 1 billion shillings. Each of the 22 of you cost us 1 billion each. So when you talk about accountability without sending that money, what will you be oversighting? And by the way, we don't do this for the county governors. No. We do this for the people. I have told you here in Nairobi, maybe you in Kakamega, you're better off. In Nairobi, we just opened the first ICU ward in Nairobi at Mama Lucy the other day. I am sure Kakamega maybe has ICU beds. Did you know Nairobi did not have ICU beds? That if you are sick at Mama Lucy and you needed a referral, we used to take you to either Kiambu, county government, county hospital, or Machakos. So allow me, Senator Khalwale. Another example is this equalization fund, Trevor, they say it is for bringing such basic services as water and roads in places where they don't exist. Now, the assumption is that Nairobi has all those things. I've given the Senate examples of places in Nairobi where there is no water, there is no roads, there are no roads, and there is no electricity. I wish that I was also a beneficiary as a county of the equalization fund, because the people of Mukuru would be able to benefit. But I am not on that schedule. That is why, as a senator, my biggest fight has to be at the division of revenue level, because that is the only place I can get my county government extra money for them to ensure that services are delivered to the people of Mukuru, Kuwinda, the other places, the informal settlements in Nairobi. So what these guys need to do, they tell us that we need to live within our means. You see, that is not an argument that should come from a senator, especially a senator who is aware that the advisor, the economic advisor of the national government, David Ndii, sat in this same studio and told the country that he has never seen the sort of wastage that he's seeing in government, and that there is no one in this government who has any spine to do anything about it. Wastage in government, in the national government, is something Khalwale chooses not to see. He only sees the wastage that is in the county government. It is ridiculous. You are elected to protect those people. If we are going to live within our means, why should the national government take trips to Greece and then tell the county governments you cannot take trips to Greece? If we are not going to Greece, let all of us stay here in Kenya and hold conferences in our offices. But we see these people every day. We see them all over the place globetrotting. They are in New York. They are where I saw another cabinet secretary running after a train. He thought it was here in Nairobi, where he will give an order and the train will wait for him. Where was he? Why was he late for the train? You see, what is he doing in those capitals? He should come here, because Vero has said we should live within our means. Okay. So if there is no money, there should be no money for everyone. But they will not justify for you, Trevor, why the county governments, and by the way, that 22 billion shillings that we are asking for, the extra, so that we get to 407, is less than 10% of the 360 billion shillings that they have added to the national government. It was not an unreasonable demand. Okay. It was not an unreasonable request.
All right. Veronica,
Trevor,
you think CRA didn't realize that we are in a hole?
No, let me say this, Trevor. First of all, because I'm privy to so much information that happens in Senate, I will not endeavor to say the number of trips my colleague, Senator Sifuna, has gone for, but you can say that. I truly think he needs them for the exposure that is required for any legislator.
I've been on
He's allowed you to say that.
I've allowed you to say.
No.
Don't tell
Can
Kenyans.
You allow me to speak?
No, I've allowed you to tell Kenyans how many trips you've done.
These are not bust. I was warning you against.
No, it's not about bust.
Veronica, go ahead.
Of my sitting next to you.
You tell people.
You tell people the truth. Tempt you.
Okay, go ahead.
So I am in effect saying he's also taking some of those trips, and some are very useful, Trevor.
Okay.
Because we are now living in a global village, and there is no way you can corner yourself in a certain region or zone and think that you know it all. There are many things that those who are taking trips need to do, like the CSs, like to attract investment, to open up the space, the global space for Kenya, because indeed we need that space. And even when my colleague takes it, Senator Sifuna and Senator Boni Halwale, I will think they need it for the exposure that they may not have gotten here back home. But let me also say this. When national government is having revenue through this division of revenue bill, there is an impression that is being created that once that revenue resides with the national government, then it's not meeting the needs of the counties or the needs of the wananchi. There are many functions that have still not been moved away from the national government. So you will find, for instance, on infrastructure, on roads, they are still being done within the counties, electrification. So it's not like this money is lost from the counties. The utilization of these funds is still going back to the counties, especially for the functions that the national government has not ceded to the county. If you're talking about security, if you're talking about university, I believe university education, if you're talking about many other functions that the national government is undertaking, that function is still serving wananchi. And we should not create the impression that if 5 billion or 10 billion does not move to the counties, under this allocation, that counties will never utilize the money that is with the national government. I would want to say that they are utilizing that fund because finally it's a Kenyan thing. It's a Kenyan budget. It's for the Republic of Kenya. It's not like it's in Tanzania. It's not being utilized in Uganda. It's being utilized here. It is building the rail here. It is building the ports in Kenya. It is building every other infrastructure that is needed. It is building the airports here. It is still serving the Kenyans that we have within Kenya. So we should not have what my colleague is alluding, that now Senator Boni Halwale being one of the delegations that would vote for that bill, that Senator Boni now it's as though he has denied his county money. That is the wrong impression. That money is still within Kenya. It is serving Kenyans. It is building development within Kenya. And one other thing, once you take debt, and this is the lesson that needs to sink, once you take debts, which debts we do not even want to discuss how they were accrued, because they were accrued during the reign of the handshake, and they never liked the mention of the handshake. During that reign of the handshake, we are actually covering holes. Right now, the national government is covering the holes that were dug by the handshake government. And that is the debt that is being taken by part of this money. That is
Halwale, you think CRA didn't realize that you're in a hole?
I think a few minutes ago, I'm the one who brought up the issue of the hole. CRA knows, like all other commissions of government, that the country is in a hole. But it is not the responsibility of CRA under the Constitution of Kenya to fix that hole. So they come and give us advice. They do not dictate to the Senate what the Senate is supposed to do. And based on that advice, we make reasonable decisions. When Sifuna tells the country that by that vote, we caused county governments to lose, that the county government lost
2 billion.
22 billion, is amazing.
Where?
Billion each.
How can you lose something you don't have?
Lose to where?
Sifuna, don't get agitated.
I'm smiling. I'm smiling, literally.
How do you lose something that you do not have? I am saying, and the facts are, the counties had 370. And CRA said the best scenario under their advice would be to increase it by 22. And out of reasonableness, we decided, let us increase it by 15. And we agreed with the National Assembly. Agreeing with the National Assembly is not a sign of weakness, Sifuna. The Constitution dictates and directs, and you have sworn to uphold that Constitution, that on every division of revenue bill, the Senate and the National Assembly should concur.
All right. We need to close.
Very serious. Sifuna has misled the country by deflecting the debate into something else called the Equalization Fund. Sifuna, stop politicizing budget making.
That's politics.
Listen to me. Stop politicizing budget making. Budget making is supposed to make prudent decisions that will make systems of governance to work. In Equalization Fund, that the one he has spoken to, if you put on his speech yesterday, he was lamenting how Nairobi should have gotten part of the Equalization Fund.
Which is true.
A lawyer who has read law, who reads this plain Constitution, wants Nairobi County to partake of Equalization Fund. The same politicization has brought the shame. The bill that we are attempting to pass, I hope we will get numbers to amend it. They are attempting to help Bungoma, Murang'a, Nakuru, Siaya, Kisumu. They are helping them to share Equalization Fund with Turkana. And yet Equalization Fund,
1.7.
and yet equalization fund was to address the historical injustice where arid and semi-arid regions, out of sessional paper number 10 of 1965, were for a period of 50 years denied development.
All right.
And now Sifuna is standing there saying Nairobi has not been given part of that. Is politics. We should stand to nationalism. You should have listened to the speech by the Senator of Siaya, who, despite Siaya being given 24 million shillings, he was saying it was wrong. That money was meant for semi-arid and arid regions.
All right, Sifuna, as we close on this.
I think I've said here that I have explained that I understand, first of all, Khalwale, Nairobi is not Karen where you live or Lavington. You need to walk around with me as a senator of Nairobi to show you where in Nairobi, and even in Murang'a where she comes from, where people...
I came to Nairobi before you were born. I know Nairobi better than you.
You came and went to Karen, and then that's why... Trevor, please, people, you see, these arguments that are being made should not be coming from people who swore to uphold or defend devolution. If you tell us that, the national government is still going to do these things in your areas, but yet you understand whenever counties say, our roads are not being built, they are told, but we gave you your money. We gave you your money. We have a history with this thing, and we understand that Kenyans wanted a dispersal of those resources so that at least everybody can enjoy some development. Number two, on the question of debt. This debt is not handshake debt. Handshake was in 2018. So if you are telling me that when we borrowed the money for the railway, Vero, you shouldn't twist facts. You can twist politics, but don't twist facts. The debt we are paying now is for the SGR, which was taken when William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta were wearing matching ties and shirts. Eurobond was taken when William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta were still wearing matching ties. So we are in that hole. That hole was dug by William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta. It was not handshake debt. Thirdly, then the Senate did not add a single shilling to counties. These 15 billion shillings was actually allocated or proposed by the National Assembly. In the Green Bill that I've explained to you, Khalwale added 0 shillings to the counties. In fact, he took away the 22 because that opportunity was there for us to be able to have a conversation with our colleagues in the National Assembly. They should be the ones arguing about this question of national debt. When they come on the table, they come with national debt. I, as a senator, come with county debt, the 100 billion shillings that is owed by Nairobi, and then we try and find if we can get an extra coin added to devolution. So all these things that Khalwale is saying, at the end of the day, they will not justify for you. Me, at least I've given you a breakdown of where the 360 billion shillings is going. Vehicles, tea, mandazi, prayer warriors. Khalwale has not told you. Why does the national government need this extra 360 billion? By the way, in the same vein, William Ruto told us that he was going to cut 300 billion shillings from national government expenditure, yet he's adding 360 billion. What is the justification? Why deny counties just 22 billion shillings so that at least Nairobi, in Nairobi alone, I lost 1.5 billion shillings because of Khalwale. 1.5 billion shillings. Khalwale and the crazy 22. You know, there's a movie I like to watch called Kill Bill. There was a group of villains there called the Crazy 88. These ones are the Crazy 22, who, when given an opportunity to take money for their own people, actually started telling us stories here about fiscal consolidation and all the others. That's the language of the Treasury, finally. Finally, again, I was with the CS Treasury. The Treasury themselves have confirmed. Not the CRA. The National Treasury and KRA have confirmed that, in fact, the collections have gone up. KRA, in the period between January and now, exceeded their targets. They have collected almost 1.5 trillion shillings. Let these people not lie to you that there is no money. There is money, but they are denying that money to the counties. The Treasury himself confirmed, the CS Treasury, that out of the entire allocation of 2 billion of the national government, the only pending disbursement is 10%, which is 211 billion, whereas 90 billion out of 370 is still not disbursed to counties. And then you expect these people to undertake what development?
All right. Gentlemen and lady, we have to leave it there. Time is running out. We really overrun. He was responding to the two of you. Now, that's the thing. This will continue.
No, closing remarks. The issue of closing remarks.
We really have to wind this up. If I added another one from Azimio, it would have been just a much longer conversation.
Closing remarks.
Yes. And Eurobond.
Yes.
He will never take responsibility in the handshake arrangement which is good for someone to take responsibility and appreciate their relationship.
Okay.
And also talk about the subsidies which they took.
Okay.
The subsidies which gave people an avenue to pocket money, billions of money. He won't talk about that. He will talk about us.
We can talk about subsidies.
Okay, no, that's a different conversation now.
The UNGA subsidy which Kenyans do not know where it is.
Okay.
We want that subsidy.
Let's close it there. Thank you so much for
Closing
making time.
remark.
There's really no time, the bullfighter. The time has run out. Cooking tips coming up next.